Present.
Rick Stewart,
Present.
Brent McCarthy,
Yes.
Dwight. Rose. We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. Adjustments to the agenda, we all set?
I do not have any adjustments to offer.
Acceptance of the minutes.
There are no minutes available for this evening, but at your March 25th meeting, your next regular meeting, you'll have them from the 4th, which was last week and this week. Yep.
All right, number 5, development review, old business, 77 Turtle Run Road.
Background. So this application, as you know, you started looking at it a year ago and it, I don't want to say stalled out, but it's quiet, right, in the fall. So you had asked me for the status and I reached out to the applicant and asked them to, what they would like to do at this point. And one of the applicants is here this evening to explain to you where they're at. You have deemed the application complete. You have had a site walk. You have taken public input in accordance, noticing laws, the state statutes. So you can make a decision at any time. When you last met, you were looking for some additional documentation. That was around what they were proposing at the time, which included some parking consideration on the adjacent lot. Excuse me. My understanding is that they're not going to pursue that parking across the street. So if we could have the applicant kind of just give us an update of where they're at, I can advise you from there.
Ready?
So that's exactly correct. We'd just like to get, we'd like you to vote without the parking. So we don't have the proper parking. We cannot give the proper parking per every one of the condos. So it's the same application without parking, very simply.
Anything to add, Don?
I'm sorry.
Anything to add?
I just want to make sure that, so I have,
Need to get a little closer to your mic.
sorry, I had a notice, or I have a notice findings prepared, but I really wasn't clear on what the documents that were being officially recognized were. So I didn't make copies of that for you this evening. So I want to be clear on what materials. We linked the materials that were submitted in June or reviewed in June to the agenda. And I believe everyone has a copy of that. And Dwight, you have a copy that you just got this evening. So if those are the documents that we're reviewing and you're making your decision upon, I just want to make sure they're the correct references and that everyone is on the same page as to what it is that you are reviewing and approving. Because any findings has to state the facts and how you draw your conclusions. So some clarity around that and then any information that you all are looking for.
Okay, I'm going to go around the room and I think it's appropriate. Most of us been involved since the original application. So if you would share with us any concerns you have, any questions you have, we'll go from there. Dwight, do you have any questions?
No, given the duration of this initiative and my short tenure on the planning board, I'll probably abstain.
Probably a good idea. Brent?
Good evening, Zach. So the application, I went back and looked through the original that was submitted back in May of last year. That application does have designated parking for condo members. So is that going to stay?
It's not. So we'd ask for unconditional approval. And if you'd like to see, I have a plan with what it would look like. And I have individuals that you can look at very quickly, but it would not have any approved parking for any one of the units. It would be broad.
First come, first serve kind of thing? I definitely would need to see that because as it is, you're asking us to approve the application that's in front of us, and I don't believe this is complete. Thank you, sir. So this would replace the new Rec 1 in the application, Zach?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of tiny, but I can see that there's not numbers on each one of the lots. So with regard to the marina, Zach, where are you guys at? That's still part of the condo association like it was initially? Or was that,
No, it was never part of the condo association. And that's one of the things we keep getting lost in is, so across the street in the parking, that is an issue, 100%. And we are working with Coffin, we're working with everybody to get that straightened out.
okay,
So, but that's a completely separate issue. Tonight, we're just looking for condo approval on this particular lot.
so I think the confusion maybe I had, I don't know, other members, but the building that's there, that's got the cafe in it now, that was part of the condo association, but it was a part of the marina as well?
Well, we parsed that off to the side with the other portion of the shoreline. And we left that out of the condo association so we can retain the boat launch.
Okay. And the other question I've got is regarding the marina itself, which is not part of this discussion.
Correct.
Okay. I wanted to follow back up on your initial
With
thoughts
that,
on,
with that being said, we understand that is an issue and we're working with Coffin, we're working with the phosphorus studies, all of the things that we need to do for that. And so that is a work in progress.
thank you. There were changes that I had requested in the bylaws and in the condominium association ground rules or whatever they were. And I know at one point Ben came back up, presented and said, here's the changes we're going to make. But again, the application that I'm looking at doesn't have any of those changes incorporated into it.
There should be an app as of August 8th, 2025. Any changes that you asked for the resource protection, shoreline, stream protection, and public water supply zones should have all been on that date, the August 8th of 2025.
Do we have, so were there two, Dawn, that were submitted?
There was a Rev 1 and a Rev 2.
Yeah, there was 1 and 2. So that one that was posted should have been the second. I have a superseded one, so that should be the.
And I just pulled the one out of my file. I didn't go to the,
Okay.
so my bad. Yeah.
I apologize. I was letting people in the waiting room. So was there something that you had more specific than that? Just checking the dates?
Well, no, again, there were some very specific things, changes and Ben came in and presented and I think gave us a Word document that was marked up, so in track changes where he had incorporated, but I just wanted to verify that those were in fact in the application that I'm looking at, which, and I now want this.
Bylaws we've been
I
asking.
believe they came, that those inquiries and his comments came in after that pack. I'll have to check on that.
Okay. Thank you, Zach. That's all I've got for you.
Those have been addressed.
And, okay,
Those have been addressed. Both attorneys have spoken about the matters and they have been addressed.
okay. I'll go back and look at the.
Do we
August-
have a copy of that or not?
It's in,
The bylaws, the latest bylaws for the condominium.
yes.
One of the things, Zach, is I wanted to get clear on that everyone has the current documents, the current information, because things were changing. So the questions here are valid in that we're not sure what, from what meetings and what dates. So I want to make sure everyone's current documents. So I'm not sure to the answer of the most recent.
I haven't seen anything other than the original.
There should have been a second packet that went out. So there was an original packet of May 21st of 2025.
Yep.
Then there was a revision to August 8th of 2025, which went through all of those, which went through all the resource protection, shoreline, stream protection, public water supplies, that also went over the sedimentation, water quality, fish and wildlife habitat and vegetative cover. And then we notated that in the declaration and bylaws.
I'll go back and check my files. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Greg?
Yeah, so I know we've had a lot of discussions and I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. The marina, that marina is part of the hotel as all one business right now. The marina, the
Correct.
hotel, the gray buildings, the way it was explained to us is all part of one business. So what you're proposing is splitting off that business from the marina.
All
And-
we're proposing is ownership. We're not doing anything different. There's no changes. There's no changes except for ownership. That's all there's no changes in structure. There's no changes in runoff. There's no changes other than ownership.
Ownership of the buildings themselves.
Correct. The portions of the buildings. That's the only thing that's changing.
portions of the buildings? Isn't it the whole building? Or is there one?
Buildings and then there's portions of the building. It's essentially that we're actually losing we're actually losing dwellings from the original.
Oh, I know that. Yeah,
2004.
you're doubling up the hotels. I just meant as far as the building, is there a building that's split?
No, there's nothing changing with our impervious area. Everything is going to
And-
stay with the same little boxes that are right there right now.
And the outside of the building is going to stay like it's either with the condo association or it's with the marina.
Correct.
I'm just saying you're not splitting a building in half and saying half of it's works here, half of it's over there.
No.
All
no.
the physical
Impervious,
structures.
yeah, like it said, there's no change in erosion or sedimentation, water quality, fish and wildlife habitat, or vegetative cover per what you had asked at the last meeting.
Okay.
And that's notated in the declarations of bylaws.
Okay.
No worries. No,
But it was original.
we did have the upstairs being one of the condos, but it just didn't work. So. Mhm.
Still valid, or those notes you put in some point in the process.
Yeah. Well, I think this was valid. So what Rick is showing me is some points that we made in our discussion, talking about, right now it's an one existing business,
Mhm.
right? The marina is part of the condos and that's all contained. This was kind of akin to taking part of the business and saying, I'm going to sell that off or I'm going to move that over here. So now you're making one business into two. So we said, I felt like, I don't know if how others felt. I felt like it would be awful nice to be able to see both businesses because now we're taking two non-conforming businesses or one business with in the shoreland zone. So it's a non-conforming, has to come to the planning board. And now we're making it two separate ones with different ownerships and different rules. So I felt like we should see both of those. That was one of my points early on that not everybody on the board agreed with, that I felt like we should see both of those businesses because they are now different than what they originally were.
Well, per the document that was signed in 2004, which was a dwelling, which was essentially what a condo was back in the day, we're not doing anything different than what we're doing right now. Like the business right now, you approve it, you deny it, whatever it may be. Tomorrow, the business is going to be exactly the same than it was today. All that we're doing is we're allowing separate ownership of the rooms. So when you go to Turks and Caicos and you go to your hotel room, it's a hotel room or it could be a condo. It doesn't matter which. It could be the hotel or it could be the condo. It's the same premise.
Right, but
Nothing changes.
you're taking part of an existing business. It'd be turning one hotel that has multiple buildings into two separate businesses. So that's the reality. Their ownership is going to be separate. It's not going to be the same. So it's breaking apart an existing non-conforming business. And we're seeing one half of the business, but not the other half of the business. So I felt like we're not getting all the information we would want to have when we are looking at this.
So per section 9C5 of the town's ordinance, we are creating no more adverse impact, which does not require a change of use. It is the same thing as we were doing before.
So a business in the shoreland zone requires to come to the planning board. And you have a single business and you're splitting it into two businesses. So both of those businesses should have to come to the planning board at the same time.
The attorneys have already spoke on this.
I understand the attorneys have spoken. And I'm saying the way I read our ordinance, it's very clear that any business has to come in front of the planning board. So my interpretation of the rules is that any business in the shoreland zone has to come in front of the planning board. This is now one business that's turning into two. So that has to come before the planning board. So we can't see one half of the business.
It's change of
It's-
ownership.
It's not a change of ownership because you're saying that now that it's going to be a condo association with rules with rules, with governance, with different ownership. It's no longer the same thing. You're changing it into something else.
So tomorrow, if I change the rules to the rooms that we're having in the hotel, it could be the same thing and it is. It's not, it's only a change it's only a change of ownership. And I've spoken with my attorney, spoken with Phil, and that is, everyone is on the same page where that's concerned.
That's, again,
It would have to be a greater adverse impact on the property, and it's a less impact on the property.
I am not.
For what you're saying.
I'm not weighing in on whether it would be approved or not approved. I'm saying as the planning board, you're taking one business, splitting it into two. I feel like as the board member, we should see both of those businesses and be able to talk about both those businesses.
That's not my understanding of it. Section
That's
9,
my interpretation.
9C5 is of the town's ordinance would only have to have a change of use if there is no greater adverse
And
impact.
I
on
can
the
go read
subject
to you from
property.
I can read from you from our ordinance where it specifically says that any business in the shoreline zone has to come to the planning board.
Okay, I-
So it's a difference of the interpretation. It's a different section of the ordinance.
okay, I'm looking at the new drawing you submitted, and just for my clarification, and you probably have said it, but I'll word it a different way. I'm looking at the layout of what is proposed to be the condominium, including the hotel, the condominium units, and so on. And then I'm looking at the ramp, the cafe, the fill station. If I understand what you're saying, is that particular section is no longer under the condominium application.
Yes, that is, it's to the
Now,
side.
physically, property-wise, is that a separate property?
Physically property separate. No, it's just going to be it's a deeded access. So it
So-
retains the same property and then it's deeded
Oh, it's
access.
still the same overall property.
Correct.
So how does that fit in with the condominium association and their responsibilities?
There really isn't, it isn't their responsibility. It would be well, I guess ultimately it would be their responsibility.
I mean, the parcel of land is going to go with the condominium association, correct?
The parcel of land is going to go
Who owns the land all said and done?
to Mill Stewart Realty.
Well, the condominium's on that land. The condominium association is responsible for the buildings on that land. You're responsible for the land. I guess what I'm getting at is, as an example, for instance, I buy a condominium on this property.
Mhm.
I own that condominium, and I'm now part of the association. Do I have a liability relative to the fill station, the ramp, the cafe? Do I have a liability relative to those properties? If
No,
indeed something happened, an accident or,
there is verbiage in the declaration and bylaws in regards to that. As something to the deferred maintenance. I'd have to go through the 66-page document to find.
you don't have that with you?
I have it with me. I'd have to go through it and I probably couldn't find it.
Because
quickly.
I think that's the point Don was making, is what is that verbiage and what's it say relative to the owners of the condominium and the association?
They're protected.
Pardon?
They're
They're
protected.
protected. So the words are there to protect them.
Yes, it's in the declaration. It's in the bylaws.
Ready? Don?
Like that, I would like to get a copy of that document and read through it.
Don,
It was
you have that, Don?
distributed August 8th.
No, we don't have that document.
We've asked for it. I don't think we ever got it.
Don, I think we do. Like, I'm looking at the original application and I'm looking at the bylaws now.
That was the first version.
That's the first one.
We got a
On May
revised-
21st, one was distributed and then there was another one distributed on August 8th.
August 8th one, I'm unclear if the one that's linked is the one that you're looking at. There is a set, the August 13th, I'm not familiar with that. I have to look at the file.
So are you saying it's in the May 20th one?
Nope, so it was a Rev 2, which August 8th.
It's the one item.
You have August
You
8th.
got an August one?
No, unfortunately, I'm looking at the original application.
Yeah, I've got that, but.
I guess in our mind, we never saw that.
Okay,
That document. And that's what Don's asking for, to see that document.
it's understandable.
It is. But the new link Dawn just posted, it is there. I just found it on the one she sent us. So we did get it on
We do
Monday.
have it then.
We have it on Monday. Yeah.
Okay. Don?
Get that.
It's,
Well, Dawn just posted it
Oh, it just posted.
like Monday on the agenda.
Yeah, and it's linked to what
Okay,
you have in front of you. It's the old,
we can find it.
it's online in the agenda, but it's a link to what you have in front of you. Because I didn't find the August.
Don't see the August.
Thing, so I'm gonna look for that, but in the.
Yeah, I was gonna say this document is dated May 21st. So I think this is the first, you said Rev 1.
Yeah.
So I
there was
think
one,
that's
and
what
then you guys
this one
asked-
is.
You guys asked for a bunch of changes and then we made all those changes and they were distributed on August 8th.
Okay.
so
I don't
you
think-
have the latest, is that what was?
We only have May 21st,
And there's one that's August, you said? There's an
August
August.
8th.
August 8th.
I'd like to get a copy of the August.
Yeah.
Anything else, Don?
Well, I'm still a little confused on the marina and the condominium. That hasn't changed. The wording in
1974.
your bylaws worded the same was. I guess my concern is having a marina, gas dock, underground tanks, launch ramp as part of that whole parcel with the condominium, the way I understood it before. Condominium was gonna own that land and the buildings, and that you guys would purchase office.
Mm,
From the condominium.
I believe as it's written, all that it's doing is subdividing the two, or actually the property stays the same. And then there's a lease in perpetuity, or deeded access, I want to say, over the top of it for those other buildings. Yeah, for the marina, correct. Yeah, it's just deeded access.
Anything else?
Mhm.
So again, we don't have a copy of the latest bylaws. Is that correct, Don?
I don't believe so.
No, the one you posted is the May one.
I've been asked.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
He can provide them to me. I'll make sure.
Yeah, I'd like.
Anything else, Don? Jamie?
So just, I mean, I don't have a question about the plan that's in front of me now. I think it does make it less complicated, not having the. I guess question would be if the applicant would be open to future discussion about the marina and the changes that are gonna have to happen with parking. Now, I personally don't mind that it's not completely separated, but I do understand the rest of the board are wanting to see what's gonna happen with parking. Did say that you're.
Yes.
So that's happening. My thought would be more to how can, with the applicant, get this work, getting the bylaws and making sure all the legality. And then talking about maybe not at the same time, but in the future, having some sort of promise to be working arena as well, so that the board sees it and approves it, feels comfortable. Maybe it's not gonna happen at the same time, do this part separately, the marina part follow. I don't know. Yeah, yeah, because I mean, if it's gonna be one property, you're gonna have the easement where they walk the docks and everything. I mean, before when it was a hotel and the motel and still had like, yeah, all that kind of stuff, so sure that there's gotta be a way, hopefully the bylaws. that actually-
Yeah, because
I know,
one ended.
right.
all the liability.
And I don't know
That's
because
not gonna be the case.
in my small experience on the board for minimal years is I've never seen us have to do anything like, but that might be a nice way as like a working with a community member, trying to make everything work, wanting to make sure it's all done properly, some sort of fix it. How do you?
Jamie. Don, you want to input?
I don't actually at this time. I just want to make sure that when you conclude this evening, everyone's clear where we're at, what additional documentation you would like, and that there's communication between myself and the applicant to make sure that that gets to your hands.
All right, so it sounds like a void is the ability to look at the revised document from August, which we'd asked for at least once, if not twice, and haven't seen. That correct? I mean, you would be the conduit.
My understanding of what you're requesting.
We've asked and we haven't gotten it. Okay, so that said, what are our options tonight? Given that we're beyond the 30 days, and that's why we're talking about it, the applicant has, y'all have not been back to us for some time now. What are the options we have?
I do need some additional information so that I can draw up a findings for you. We need a narrative, basically explaining what Zach is stating, what it is that they're proposing, unless it's exactly what's in here, because this is now what we're going by. But there are already some changes that we've discussed this evening in regards to parking. So I need to make sure all that documentation is clear. When you make your decision, we're referencing the documents that are what you are. But so this evening, you could approve the application as presented. You could approve it with conditions. You could deny it with specific references to the ordinance provisions as to what it does not meet. You could continue it to the next meeting or a date and time specific so that you can see those final documents and draw a conclusion, or you could table it, at which case we don't know when it would come back.
So everybody understand the options? So I'll entertain a motion on any one of those options.
I mean, I feel like we should ask the applicant though, because if they're going to be ready for the next meeting, we could say, we'll have this ready for the next meeting. If not, we could table it. Those are kind of my two thoughts.
You have any
Have it
feedback?
ready.
And maybe you already have the document. We don't have the document, so it could just be.
We
you
do.
Make sure
We-
Don has it and we have 2 weeks to review it.
Everything, I guess I apologize. Everything was spoken between our attorney and Phil and everything was in working order. And so I thought that I was just walking in here to a vote. So that's my apologies on that. So as of August 8th, everything that you guys had asked about in regards to resource protection and the vegetative cover and all of the items that you'd asked for, those have all been added into the declarations and bylaws, and then the protections in place for the owners. That's all been taken care of. So that's all in the bylaws. And the only thing that was not, that just could never work was us assigning parking spots to each one of that. We would move over our impervious area and it would not work. And so that's hence the conditional approval that I was asking for in front of you, just doesn't designate parking spots with. That's
been removed, you said, from the August document.
Yes, it's been, yes, it's been removed from the August document and then it's in front of you there. Yes. That couldn't be redistributed.
Well, this is the park. Yeah, you can add this to it, but that's basically everything else is in August.
Correct.
And then we add this to it and now we have everything.
The documentation as far as the parking is concerned, that happened about a week and a half ago. So we are going back and forth with how we could make that work and we just couldn't make it work. So we pulled it out of all the documentation and the one that you have in front of you. It'll be shared parking. It's same as spots. Well, can I say that? Yeah. They're not going to be
Parked
deeded.
all over the
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, to be honest with you, that's a full-time job, making sure no one parks on that. Nick will tell you that that's his least favorite thing to do is kick people off from there. And we have it very clearly marked, and on like big weekends or something like that, we have to put very clear markings to not go in that area because oh yeah, people will be people. So
So I'll entertain a motion.
Can I ask another question first? So Rec 1, which you gave us tonight, is tied directly to Rec 2, Drawing 2, which all I've got is the old one. And so my ask is going to be, what I want to make sure is that when I get to a point where I say, yes, I'm going to vote to approve this, that I've got a package in front of me that is ironclad, that when we're talking about this in 5 years from now, we can pull out this application, whatever application, and it's accurate and representative of exactly what we've approved. And I'm fearful now that we've got parts that were submitted potentially in August of last year. You've given us something new now, and it's our obligation now to try to compile all that stuff to make it an accurate record. So I guess my ask of you, Zach, would be, can you guys take a few minutes, an hour, a couple hours, and repackage this thing with all the latest, greatest updated information, so we've got one document to look at and hopefully give our thumbs up to?
yes.
Thank you.
Now, do you think,
How would you like it spelled out? Well, it will. So the condominiums will own everything, and then I have to see exactly what this is where I'm overstepping, and I typically let my attorney speak right here. But there'll be deeded access to those buildings and those properties in perpetuity for what was happening right now.
So that'll be, the marina business will be deeded your buildings, and how about the land?
I believe the land will stay the land goes with as I understand it, the land will go with the condominiums. And so all of the land is owned by the condos,
Okay.
and that's easements.
Yeah, I see all the easements.
Different answer than I got.
And then you will basically purchase those buildings for your marina. You in perpetuity.
Yeah, it would be a lease in perpetuity because we couldn't purchase them.
Well, add your list of,
Okay.
Brenda's talking about, bring us up to date with a final package or new package. And one of those is the question Don's asking and I asked. I just heard two different answers. So you need to nail down who owns that property, all said and done. Is it the condominium association or is it your organization? And what you told me is different what you just told Don.
Yeah, I would have to look back at
So-
this.
My point is you need to clarify that. That needs to be stated and that needs to be part of the application. Who owns that land, all said and done?
Clear.
Mm.
Lucky area.
Jamie? Okay.
This,
So is that a-
and just as a point, Mr. Chairman, it does say on this new document that Zach gave us, and it's pointing to the marina, what I'm going to call the marina parcel with the boat launch, and it does say proposed easement for Mill Stewart Realty, shown with crosshatched. So it would appear that the condo association owns everything. They're going to have an easement on top of that for their rights, uses to run the marina. So what is the way I would read that?
So do I hear a motion for tabling this until the next meeting, expecting an updated document that brings us up to date on all information that's,
When was our next meeting, Don?
The 25th is your next workshop. I don't know if the applicant will be able to pull that together or not, but then your first meeting after that is the second week.
well, let's say the second week of April.
How quickly, Zach, do you think you guys could pull this together?
I can have it ready for the 25th. I'm unavailable for the 8th.
Okay.
If that's
So
available to you. Otherwise, other people will have to be here. And they're smarter than I am anyways.
So the first meeting in April is what we're shooting for then. You want to make that a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we table. I apologize here.
Is there a
Thank you.
reason, do you have the possibility of doing the 25th if I have it for the 25th?
Dawn, you help us out here. That's a workshop?
Chop, you all have the ability and the right, because you've discussed this, you don't want to hold applicants up, and you can take applications then. I do just want to point out that the documents need to submit it, and I need to be able to review them.
And you need to notice it by, do we need 10 days?
If you continue it to that date and time specific this evening, we don't.
Okay,
sit-
okay. This is the notice.
Let's go to the first meeting in April, then, sounds like.
I mean, I would.
It can be either. I can't be here the 8th, but, or maybe I can make, I change my flights.
Which date?
The 8th. I can't be here, but attorneys and smarter people can be here.
It's,
So the board want to do it with a workshop? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Okay,
We could if they can get us the package, yeah.
yeah, so the next meeting is in 2 weeks. That's what we're shooting for. If you can make that, then we'd appreciate it.
We'll have everything ready for you.
and Don, does he have a deadline that he has to have that into you by?
7
Sooner is
days.
better.
Understood, but
First, but let me just take a quick peek here. That's the 25th, today's the 11th. I mean, really the end of this week, because I have to send your packets out for the meeting. So that would include the new materials and my comments.
Well, let's shoot for that, and you tell us if you can't make it.
I mean, it sounds like the documents already exist. It sounds like.
Just got to get them together, right?
I think I think only one set of eyes has gone through the non-parking, and 2 other sets of eyes have not seen it yet. So I want to say that's fine, but I don't want to say without 2 other sets of eyes looking at it. So I want to say that I could give it to you tomorrow, but 2 other sets of eyes should look at it.
My personal desire, you're here.
The 25th I can be here. 8th is going to be very, very difficult.
Uh, Is that a motion?
yes, I will make a motion to table the discussion on 70, you took the paper away from me. Oh, 77 Turtle Run Road. I apologize. Lakeside Lodge and Marina, Mill Stewart Realty LLC, until one of the next upcoming meetings, depending on applicant availability, applicant submittal of revised application.
For a second?
Jamie.
Second, Jamie? Discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry, Don, hold up.
I would suggest if you make it to the 25th and for some reason we can't get that together for you, then at the 25th, you could then continue it until the April meeting. But if we can get it together and get it on the 25th and you don't table it to that tonight, we'll have to renotice it.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you,
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Always good to know. Read that thing. Perfectly fine.
Okay, moving right along. Now moving to 85 Wood Grove Lane. Thank you.
Give,
Good evening. My name is Craig Sweet with Teradyne Consultants here on behalf of the Brayleys for their property at 85 Woodgrove Lane. They're requesting a 30% expansion for their deck on their property there. I know most of you guys were out there and we walked it this evening. So they bought the property in 2020, and then I believe in 2024, they had done some modifications to their deck. Code enforcement issued a notice to stop work. And then last spring, they got us involved, Teradyne Consultants, to do some surveys out there and then help them bring it into compliance. So that's what I'm here for tonight. So our surveyors went out last year and we provided a couple surveys here. So we have the one of 2, which is how the deck currently sits today, as you guys saw it out on site. And then we have 2 of 2, which is how it was, sorry, I'm trying to get the mic too, before any work was done out there, which shows the deck was, there's an existing 2-story deck along the back of the home, which is faces the shoreline, and it wraps around to the front. As you saw out there tonight, they expanded the two-story deck. It used to be a little over 6 feet wide. Now it's a little over 8 feet wide, and they had added a pavilion area and another deck closer down this way. From our survey, we had determined that the closest point of the original deck was 63.9 feet from the shoreline. And that's what we're proposing to reduce the current one down to. So I'll go over a couple numbers just for reference. Before any improvements were done out there, the area of the home and deck in the less than 100 feet from the shoreline was 1376. The deck expansion as it sits today was an expansion of 742, which exceeds the 30%. They're proposing to remove 345 square feet of the deck as it sits, which would be 2 feet off of the two-story, and then a portion here that's shown in the checkered hatch on the plans. So everything in the checkered hatch will be removed from what it is today, which will reduce it down to an expansion of 397 square feet, which is a 28.85%, so 29% expansion from how it was prior to any work on site. And that is, I had submitted some pictures of what it used to look like when they purchased it and then prior to any work. And then I had pictures of what it looks like after the work, and then, which is what you saw today. So happy to answer any questions from there.
Just a question about runoff control. Sometimes when we see these work projects, we see where the silt fence is proposed and erosion control mulch is going to be placed.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that on the drawing, but
I did show one right here. So I do have silt fence there. The only work that's going to be pulling up a couple posts, it is right here.
okay, I can't see it on our drawing. Is it on our drawing? What line am I looking at and am I missing? Is it on the other drawing?
It's the existing.
Oh. Okay, I missed that one. Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
I know it gets a little confusing when there's two surveys there. Usually you'd see like one survey and a proposed.
Yep.
And then the only disturbance really is going to be ripping up the couple posts that were used for the deck here. It was built on the existing posts from the previous two-story deck, and they're going to reuse those, keep those in there. So we're not going to change that again. So.
Okay. And if there's needed structural adjustments, do you have, additional posts to support the pavilion, that kind of thing? You'd install those, but you're behind the erosion control mix and
Correct.
silt
Yeah.
fence, so.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that was really my only question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Setback distances? Thought at the site visit, you indicated that you've got a drawing that shows it
Yes.
very clear.
So this line right here is 63.9, which is so it is. I'll trace it with my finger so it's easier. It's right here, cuts up into the checkered. So the deck is going to be no further than that, and it's really just this line right here is going to match the existing, which is 63.9, right at that corner. And then the rest is going to be back farther.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Wait,
I don't have any comments on the application. I just want to make sure it's accepted as
as far as you're concerned, the application's complete. Is that what you said, Don?
Yeah.
Okay. So, with that, I'll entertain a motion. Right?
Can't find my
I can
darn
make, I
agenda.
can make an emotion, that,
Craig's gonna do it.
85 Wood Grove Lane, map 16, lot 001, the application be deemed complete.
Here a second
Second.
discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
All unanimous.
All set? Okay, what's the board's desire beyond that? On the application?
I was going to make a motion, but I just had one last question that I forgot to ask. I don't believe we covered this, but are there any trees being removed as part of this project?
No, no
Okay,
trees.
I didn't
Yeah.
think so. I just wanted to ask it.
Yeah, no.
So, okay, after that, unless there's anybody else, I'll make a motion, that, case 85 Wood Grove Lane, map 16, lot 001, be approved as written.
Second? On second?
Mr. Chairman, if you could just open input, make sure.
Oh, yep.
Oh, yeah, okay. Any public input on this project? Hearing none. We have a motion and a second?
Yes. I second.
Seconded it. Are we ready to vote? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next is 23 North Upper Narrows Lane. Yes. Absolutely. Make it quick though. It is here with a different drawing. It has the addition. That's a drawing of it, right? That's,
Yeah.
right.
I'll take a copy of this or actually, I'll do it right now because you're on a booth.
And you have the letter from the DEP that there too? You got the drawing of the layout? You have that one as well? Okay. Thank you.
The car come out. What does the car come?
It's too early to tell, really. Snow has to be gone, the roads have to be dry.
Steve's a little bit gone.
Steve's really gone. Bowden Street, no, never mind Bowden Street.
So Don's making some copies. My name is Adam St. Pierre and 23 North Upper Narrows. I had hired Elliot Thayer to come out and he's the one that did that original print that you'll have in front of you in a second. And I kind of already said this when you came and did the site survey, but I haven't been able to get him back. He's just ghosted me. And I've reached out to 4 or 5 other places, Dirigo Surveying, everyone I can get a hold of, online. And they're like, oh, well, we like Elliot. We use Elliot for civil engineering, but we'll reach out to him on your behalf. They'll even blind CC me in on the email. And he's like, I'll get back to them in 2 weeks. Yeah, no problem. 3 months later, I still haven't heard. So the whole point of today, I guess, because this is totally new to me, is just seeing if the print that we have that I've kind of highlighted, made some markings on, if that's enough to move forward for you guys, or if I really do have to get a whole new surveyor in to do a whole new print set. So that's kind of the question for today, I think. And then, obviously you guys came out and saw what we're looking at. So whatever input you guys have on that too, as far as what I'll need and stuff. But We're definitely well past the 100-foot mark. Of course, my property starts that resource protected 250 area. I've already got some mulch going down. We cut down a couple trees and my brother-in-law down the road's got a mulcher, so we've already got a big pile of mulch there to start that. I'll get the mat going. And then the other key piece to it too is that when I do the earthwork to make the space for that addition, to take that material and then reuse it in other spaces on the property for expanding the driveway mainly. That's kind of the big thing is expanding the driveway. But also that fill's gonna have to move down to like fill in behind where the addition's going. So,
Do you have a sense, just a question, do you
Yeah.
have a sense that that fill that you're talking about was brought in to do the original construction?
it is not. I think it's natural to that because as I've moved some of it that's past the 250-foot mark, like in my back, the flat spot that you were pointing out, I've been working to make that flatter because as the years have gone by, the erosion has made it a steeper drop closer to the house. So I'm trying to get it back to something that the kids can play on and then build in all the erosion control and direct the moisture away from the house to that runoff stream. And yeah, it does not appear that any of it, it's got roots and rocks. And I mean, every spring when I mow it, I find all the stuff that's come up, so it's, I think it's very natural to that environment.
All right, if you're done, I'll wait till Dawn gets back so she can record any input. Basically, the process we're at now is that we did the site visit and now we want to give you feedback on expectations so that you can put together an application that
Yeah.
meets our expectations.
Yep.
And hopefully do it once.
Yeah.
And then
Great.
come back and present that to us. So what I want Dawn to do is capture what those elements are that the board will recommend. So
Perfect.
just wait a minute till she gets back, and I'll assume you're done presenting,
Yeah. I mean, I think.
other than answering questions, but
One last thing I had mentioned again was, doing the stuff down to the water, but I think like Greg had said, maybe keeping that separate would make sense.
or down below.
Yeah,
Yep.
just for time more than anything, right? If it's gonna take time to do the addition, by the time you get to the waterfront, it might be past the due date.
Delicious. Okay.
Thank you, Don. I really appreciate that.
Start over here, Dwight. Dwight? Well, he says survey, but do you mean engineer?
Yeah, I think it was to show the elevations and stuff for the land, and then especially with like the expansion of the driveway, like how is that gonna change those elevation lines? I think that was kind of what I was,
Yeah, he's looking for more documentation than he is surveying. My opinion.
I just don't know what I need for you guys, I guess is what I'm asking. I'm hoping to basically at least do the foundational structure of, especially like the driveway expansion is all going to be done with the material that's there. So all be native material just moved around the property. I think the only time that I have to bring in stuff from outside will be for like the fill for the slab. You're going to want good sandy stuff around the new structure. And then whatever, if we repave or whatever down the line, whatever it would be. Yep. It'll definitely be exceeding 25.
Well, let's see what the board members have for details that they're expecting. You're correct there.
So the print that I have that he's given me so far may be enough.
We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
Uh,
Dwight, you all set? Brent?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, given your specific location to the water body, is going to be erosion control that I'm
For
going to
sure.
want, that I'm going to focus on.
For sure.
Construction methods for your retaining wall. Are you going to have drainage through the retaining wall?
Yeah.
How high is it going to be? What else are you going to use? Erosion control mix? How is that going to be staged? Any tree removal that you may need to do in order to build that retaining wall out front there.
Mhm.
But I don't think for my uses, maybe something a little bit more detailed than what you've got here, but we don't need a survey. You don't need to have an engineer go out and spend money on that. That's not what we,
Okay.
that's not what we need. That's not what I need.
And the
Don,
reason I'm
can you walk
asking that is literally because I've been waiting for a year now. I'm in front of you for the first time. I've been working on this for a year trying to get somebody out there.
A lot of what
So-
you need, I believe, working with Dawn, you'll be able to achieve that. Is that correct, Dawn?
That was the case, but I wanted to check in
Yep.
on it. and
Yep.
go-
Oh.
If we finalized our draft 2 examples.
Yes.
So that's something that you could hand to the applicant.
Yes.
So there's a couple of example packages we built and say,
Okay.
this is what our expectations are to hopefully guide you through that process a little
Okay.
bit, so you'd have a better understanding. Yeah, I mean, there's always one thing we always ask, what's the distance to the water? What's the distance to the water?
Yeah.
Even if it's 255 feet, is it 180 feet? Is it 190 feet? What is
Yeah.
the distance from the corner of the structure, from enough places so that we have a rough idea?
And that is what that print does show. It does show the pins. It does show the 100-foot pin, which is within, it's nearer to the water than the dirt road that my neighbors use. On the other side of it is the 135-foot mark. So those numbers are in there. And obviously, that's a photo that I then printed off, that I then did highlighting on. So I have the original, which if we photocopy that would be much clearer. I can, it would
Right,
have
yeah,
those
so-
numbers much clearer.
So we don't need a survey, but I mean, we do
Okay.
need to know, you have on the survey approximate 100-foot water line.
Right.
You could just measure from that and say, okay, the corner of the building is 140 feet, so it's 240 feet.
I
So the distance to the water, it's not only critical for us to approve it, it's also critical for the package. So then we know the location of that building, so that we're saying, whether you're in or outside the shoreline zone and all those kind of things. It's important for those. That's kind of a key piece. I don't need every dimension. It's great that we have a dimension.
Yep.
There's a couple of things we usually key in on, like the height of the building. You're going to be touching the shoreline zone, so you're going to be limited to 35 feet, making sure the house is less than that. So, it's like, and making sure you know how to measure that and where to measure that. So I mentioned the impervious cover number. That's another one we always ask. I don't think you'll have any problem because you have 4 acres, but
Right.
just, and that's just a rough calculation. What's my area versus the 4 acres? So it's easy to calculate what 4 acres is, and then you're just trying to take some rough measurements of the area and saying it's roughly this. And we're not going to ask if you're 25% or 19.99%, we may want something a little more specific.
Sure.
If you're at 8%, we're not going to be as concerned about that number and how you calculated it. So just something and showing your work a little bit, like, the driveway's, approximately 3,000 square feet and the house existing is, 2,000. The addition's going to be another 1,000. My shed is, whatever, if you're going to keep the shed, and just so that we have, where did those calculations come from?
Yep.
And again, you come up to 8,000, you go, well, I own, almost 200,000. So it's like,
Right.
I'm not even, but
Right.
at least then we have numbers. So those are the big ones that we usually key in on, is the building height, distance from the water, and specifically the impervious cover, total. So those are the 3 things. And then any dimensions you have on the drawing are helpful, but
Yep.
they're not as critical. Making sure, like, it's nice to see a sketch like with the side boundaries, just so, even if you print the tax map and say the house is here.
Yeah.
Just so that we know you're not getting into that 10-foot limit, so that we just checked all the boxes. That's all we're doing.
Yeah.
Is making sure that you're not out of compliance with the town ordinance. Does that kind of make
absolutely.
sense?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
and that's why I'm here, is to make sure that's all stuff that I can do.
Right,
Because if I can do it, why am I waiting for Elliot to call me back?
And- and-
Like,
And you'll see the plan, the examples that we wrote up are specifically things you can do. If you know how to use a tape measure and you know how to do some of these, it's not that complicated.
Yeah.
So you don't need a full engineering drawing. That's the idea. We don't want to put that burden on a resident.
That's
So,
awesome.
but giving you those examples and try to look at what we have on there, and there's a reason we have it on there. And if
Mhm.
you have a question, you can give Dawn a call and say, why do they have this on there? And then she can help you understand it. So that'd be my suggestion. Thank you.
Awesome.
Um,
Thank you.
Couple key things we're looking for. One's narrative. Basically, that's you're verbalizing what you want to do,
Okay.
which you did tonight. Two is a plot plan, and this is a real good start, the plot plan.
Okay. A
And
little less
things
gray.
Greg made relative to it. Again, I think you heard it more than once, but we're not sure why you need a survey. You know, you've got a pretty big piece of property, you're not going against the
Really was the
sideline.
distances, right? Like where is the 250-foot mark and show it? Because
Yeah.
before Elliot made this print for me, I didn't have that, right?
Now you
Like, I
know.
didn't- So,
And then things like, and I think you've done it here, is things like where's your well, where's your drainage field, where's your septic tank?
yep.
The other thing is very helpful is your drawing layout of your building.
Yep.
I don't know if you have an elevation view.
Yeah, that was just one page just to show you like
Do you
this
have
is
it
what
then?
the orange highlight is. Yeah, I got the rest of the
So
hand.
to Greg's point, if you included that, that answered his question about the 35
Exactly. Yeah.
feet.
Yeah, no, I'll have the whole, yeah, for
That would answer that.
for sure.
Questions about the stream or non-stream,
Drainage.
The runoff.
that helps that.
Drainage ditch,
That's
yeah.
great as part of the package.
Yeah.
So you, lack of a better measure, you're halfway there. So,
That's amazing because I felt like I was not even past step one, right? Like,
No,
so,
no.
I
one,
really
you're at
appreciate it.
250. Two, you've got a lot of documentation already. You just got to organize it into your application.
Yes,
Don will help you with
100%.
that.
Yeah,
And you probably will be amazed how close you are.
that's
So we're glad you came
fantastic.
in. We're glad we went out and looked at it.
Yeah, me too. I really
Uh,
appreciate everybody coming out just to see, you know.
Now back to I've heard you say twice, maybe three times about running it over to the stream. Well, the stream goes, as far as I know, that's runoff into the lake.
Yes.
Don't do
eventually.
that. You got to do something else for remediation of those.
Anything coming down the hill, don't try and direct it to that.
Well, I mean, ideally, you don't want to direct it at your house.
Right.
Right?
No
So,
question.
and obviously downhill's an easy option. But what we'd like to see is you trying to direct it to some place that it has a chance to settle out before it forms what's called rivulets, which then form into little trickles, which then form into a runoff ditch, which is what you have. So trying to limit that runoff directly from any soil that gets disturbed, moved directly down in and running directly into the lake. So, you know, how do you do that? It's by pitching and sloping. It's when you're going to build that platform, if you lift that upper end instead of having the water run off, and maybe you even pitch it the other way to go on the other side of the house rather than
I had
towards
had
the
that
drainage
too,
ditch.
is like-
And you're getting, we know you don't want it in your house.
Right.
Those are kind of the options you have is which way do you go? And you say, okay, if I'm pitching it towards there, can I build some steps in? Can I build some meanders in? Can I build some berms in that'll slow down anything that's going to run off so that the water has a chance to infiltrate into the ground? So if it goes through the ground is a giant filter, right? And it cleans out all that phosphorus, all that stuff you don't want in the lake that causes algae to grow, things like that. So anything we can do, there's a number of things. You've got the distance there to put in some type of, you know, they call it swales to be fancy, but it's like little divots. You know, what you were talking about, your driveway happens every time you have to plow.
Right.
It's exactly what you want to put in when you're kind of building something that's running off towards a stream, is you don't want to make a nice smooth channel to run directly in, because
Right.
that's going to carry anything that it transports off when it rains directly into the lake. And we don't want that,
Yeah.
because that phosphorus is going to be harmful to the lake.
Ready? Don,
Are you planning on,
Maybe eventually. I mean, part of this is the finances, right? I mean, the materials alone are pushing 200. So this is going to be a lengthy process.
that'll be
Um,
another thing with the rock.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. And we would obviously have, you know, a paving company come in, you know, to do it, and then they would have to have a plan for that for sure.
erosion control mix.
Are you familiar with that term? Basically, it's stringy bark, is what it is. And it's used for slope control. It creates a nice mesh. And you were talking about your path to the lake.
Yeah.
There's applications we've used slope control and does a nice job in terms of creating that mat that doesn't wash out.
My brother was saying I should put it under the driveway, like use that as the foundational, but
Was a mat.
yeah, the mat, yeah.
Jamie? Don, were you all set?
Yeah.
Don? Jamie? Don?
Sounds like you're good.
Not horizontal.
Yeah, the point he's making, the
Yeah.
35 foot is from the low spot to the high spot,
Right.
not
right.
from the ground to the high spot.
Again, that's what Elliot was for, and that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but he's also talking when you measure horizontally, you have to measure the horizontal distance, not no, so you can't just lay a tape on the ground.
Yeah,
You have to lay a
exactly.
tape on the ground and it's the cosine, you need to take the cosine of the
Exactly, yeah.
angle to be able to adjust it to horizontal.
right.
So you have to know the height difference between it to measure it.
And my point about the 35 feet is assume we were standing in the driveway, that's the base of your home. And the peak of the house, whatever the highest spot is, from that point to the highest spot is your 35 feet.
Yes.
Which is a different point than Greg was just making.
That's the elevation of the building, but just remember, you're measuring it off on all, whatever the highest part would be from the ground.
Right.
So that could be the back, it could be the front, it could be the side, but you're just measuring that distance down.
Yeah,
But when you're measuring your distance to the water, that's one thing he did when he surveyed.
exactly.
That's, and it's not that hard to do. It really isn't. You know, Google's fantastic and it'll give you the easy way to do that. You
Hmm.
estimate the elevation. You could even use your fingers. I can show you a couple techniques. It's like you could just do the finger count. You say, okay, that's 6 feet tall, 6 feet tall, 6 feet tall, 6 feet tall. Now you know you've gone up 4, so it's 20, so it's 24 feet. It's a 24-foot vertical from where you measured the 100-foot line. Now you've measured the distance, 158. Do the cosine of the angle, and you're probably going to be down around 140 feet.
Yeah.
So there's simple techniques to measure the vertical height. It is. You can also you can use a level and set it on the ground, look down the level and say, where's it hit that tree? And then tape down on the tree. There's
I
other-
did try to do that. I
there's
didn't
other
have a good
ways-
enough laser.
Well, I mean, just take a 4-foot level and just
Yeah.
look down it
Sure.
when it's level and it'll give you the height of what that tree is. And again, I don't think we care if it's 2 feet off here. We are not
Yeah.
pushing the boundaries,
Yeah.
but it's more just understanding where you are.
Yeah.
And you already have, the building is already located. So You
Right.
can use the existing house as a measure from what your distance offset would be.
Yep. Awesome.
Okay, any other input? Aaron, did you have any input? No? Okay, you were done, Andy? Okay, so that's our feedback.
No, I really,
Um,
it's exactly what I needed, right? I really appreciate it. This is what I needed. Now I got somewheres to go and I just
Good.
want to move some dirt this summer, you know?
And again, Dawn is an excellent resource. She can help you
Yes.
with the
He's
application.
already been extremely helpful.
Dawn, anything else? On that?
I wish I had plans, but no, I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you all so
Appreciate
much. Really appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you soon and we'll have a finished application.
Should be your first response. Need help? Here's some examples.
All right, next item is under 6 other business. Greg, you want to talk to us about the solar ordinance?
So everybody got a copy of the solar ordinance. And I took in the council's request from the meeting. And then I put my responses in that attached memo and then I applied all those to the actual. So you should have both things. 1, a revised solar ordinance and 2, questions and comments from the board. Several of the comments were already in the solar ordinance or I felt were addressed in the solar ordinance. This is again, my interpretation of the council. And now the council made all those comments. They did not They did not vote on any of them. They did not say that we want all of these in the ordinances, but the ones that I felt were reasonable, I decided to include. And I say I just because I know this is the first time the board is seeing it. So it's not to be conceited. It's to make sure that if you don't like it, we can talk about it. So, so the requirements that we added were, several different requirements. The electrical one was probably the one that Rick and I had talked about the most, and the board members were a little bit more specific than I was. I created a very generic, what I thought was a very generic one, saying that they have to get a third-party inspector and they have to pay for that independent third-party inspector, and that all of those requirements that the state require are part of our package. So if anybody had an understanding of electrical solar panel transformers and how the wiring is, they could actually access that. So that was included. And then the second thing that's probably important to highlight anyways is the number and the amount of solar in the town of Winthrop. So I used the 2020 census, which had 3,300 structures, residential structures. And I said, you know, based on what I could find online, solar, a 1 megawatt solar facility could power up to 1,000 structures, you know, but when you look at the usage over the day, over the night, total usage, it worked out that 300 structures with a 1 megawatt solar structure was pretty reasonable. So that's where I came up with 3,300 and capped the town limit at 11 megawatts. That's just commercial. None of this applies. None of this applies to their house. None of this applies to their house. That is very different. It's written right in the ordinance that this is only commercial solar where they're selling it back to the grid. So if there's somebody's doing it for themselves, no problem. We have 11 approved. We have 11 approved plans, but I know we mentioned last time that the one out on 41 have told the landowner, like, we're walking away. So, and that one was done before we had an ordinance. And I believe there's a couple others that are still floating around. I wouldn't say they're substantially started yet. So whether they're been extended, I don't know the status. Well, again, not necessarily, because it could be that it could be that we want to expand the usage. It could be we want to change the usage. I put it down as a starting point to discuss. To me, it seemed like, that kind of makes sense. I don't know and as we asked the attorney, he's like, well, no one's ever really limited solar, but there's nothing to stop us from limiting solar. And I said, well, to me, I want to have a rational explanation for where we put the cap. And to me, the number of residential houses in Winthrop seemed like a reasonable number to pick. Right, exactly. So why would it be, you know, so I said, let's at least put something behind it. And again, if half the town had their own solar, well, then you'd only be looking at 1,650 residents because half of the town already have their own solar. So, you know, well, that's the thing is it doesn't include business because business power usage vary by so much. So it's really hard to include businesses because they can very well, a school or municipal buildings or things like that can use a lot more power than a residential. So I'm saying it seemed like a reasonable place to start. You know, again, what is the solar capacity and are we looking to be 100% solar sustainable in Winthrop?
What?
You know, to follow up on what Jamie said, that this is designed to forestall any future development. What you're saying is to justify it, then it's got to provide some connection to the community. We do that with any other commercial entity.
I think we do that with all commercial applicants.
So they have to have some benefit for the community.
Yes.
Yeah, let me ask you a question. Jamie, you want a Walmart? That's a quick answer to your question. As Greg said, we look at every one of them and look at if there's a benefit. Go ahead.
I just see this as being very restrictive.
I mean, I think that was the intent and that was the message I got from the city council or town council was that they felt that we have a lot of solar. And one of the reasons that we are picked on is because we have a very good interconnection between Augusta and Lewiston. And we have a lot of good power connection. And that was one of the things that was mentioned. And then they asked about like the taxes. And I said, well, actually the state limits the amount of taxes we can collect on solar. And they actually cap it. It's the cheapest land you can own. It's cheaper than farm by a factor of 3. So the taxes they pay to the town are the lowest of any type of property you can have, even unoccupied.
For services.
Pretty limited. So
Still not.
again, right, we're not excluding it as a business, we're allowing it, but we're putting a limitation on it. And some people are going to be for it, some people are going to be against it. I felt like I wanted to land in the middle someplace and say, people don't want to see it. That's why we added the vegetated buffer requirement, because that makes it so that they have to own a little bit more land and they don't have to see it. So that makes a lot of people happy that we have that limitation. So the other limitation was how much solar do we need in Winthrop? Should we have a cap on it? And that was sort of the way I came up with a cap, was just using the residential as a starting point. Yeah, exactly. I don't believe it's impossible.
Little too.
I'm open to input.
I like where you started from, but like maybe we do add in like how much power does the school use? I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you calculate.
And if they change their light bulbs, they change the amount of power they use. So I don't think those things are known right now.
Dwight, so what component of this are you talking about in terms of being too restrictive? Is it the cap? Okay, good.
Okay, with there being a cap, just it's really only allowing us to take one.
Well, if you take Greg's numbers of 300 houses per megawatt, I think that reality is it's much lower than that. It's probably half of that. Just as a point, I think the cap is an okay idea. I think the reality is that that's going to be something that we're going to change. I think the reality is when people put wind in 15 years ago, they bought a tower and a turbine and blades. Since then, technology has evolved significantly. They can put bigger blades, bigger turbines, more efficient blades. So what was a 20 megawatt farm has now got to come back at 25 megawatt. So at some point you may see that inverters, whatever your electrical equipment or the panels themselves, they can upgrade those and get much greater efficiency out of those. You may see a farm that's now megawatt, 5 years back certified. So you may be bouncing off the cap. The only part I had a hard time with, Greg, was the third-party inspector for the electrical. I don't get it.
I couldn't.
Third party.
The state has some, and that was the only way I could come up with, because I mean, we could just require that documentation to be submitted, but that doesn't really kind of meet the standard of, well, how did they meet the standard? Like, did they supply? I don't think any of us are qualified to stamp that and say, we understand this. So, and that was the idea of a third-party inspector. They're the ones that are going to say everything's here, and they have to do that anyways for CMP. So it's not asking them to do anything they don't already have to do. We just want a copy of it that was what I got from the town council, is that they specifically requesting us to have a copy of what they're requiring. Because right now, the town has nothing as far as their electrical requirements. The state does, and we could go maybe get that from the state. I don't know.
That's all we want to ask then is for a copy.
That's essentially, but if we get a copy before they even go to the state, how do we know that what they gave us is right? And that was the idea of the third-party inspector.
So you're not an inspector, a reviewer. You're,
Whatever term we want to give it, but it's called a third-party inspector because you're reviewing the plans, and that's what the state was calling it.
They give it to me,
But if it's been certified by a third party,
give it. States.
good.
just,
White has,
you know, I understand the intent of a third-party reviewer. And I have a little limited experience in some construction design work. And what we found was you hire a reputable professional that's licensed in the state of Maine. And those professionals typically have internal review processes before they distribute it for the public review. They're very detailed. Their livelihood is their business. What we found where the hole was in the actual construction. And so we found more value in putting an inspector, the actual construction, realizing that the guy building the thing won by low bid. And so you're not so much worried about the professionals designing it, you're worried about the actual construction. And so the construction is where you focus your attention, and you have inspectors, not a reviewer, but you have inspectors at periodic basis, make sure that they're building it as designed. And I didn't see that anywhere in here.
No, that is brand new. That's all added. So is that they're going to have a detailed work plan, and that work plan is not going to be modified. I think I put that even in my notes. There's going to be some kind of a charge if they modify their work plan. And that was after talking to Mark, as he does go out, he treats each one of these panels like a structure, and he reviews each one like a structure. So Mark is doing the review of the solar field as it's installed, but there's no inspection except by Central Maine Power unless they hook up to another power utility of the electrical.
That's where I think we should focus, rather than on the professional review. Have the company pay for a third-party inspector.
Excuse me. Is this third party person? Where's their?
It's the third party independent inspector. So the thought is they are certified, meaning that whatever they're doing by the state, if they need to be a licensed profession, if they need to be a licensed professional engineer, a licensed electrical engineer, whatever the requirements are, this would probably have to be a professional engineer certified in electrical. They would probably have to have that requirement. The state has a list of them, and they would have to know how to do, because the state would have to
Why
sign.
wouldn't the people that designed it, why wouldn't they have somebody to make sure that, hey, they put it in according to our design?
I'm sure they do. The town council brought up a concern that they don't have somebody doing that. And that all these are LLCs. I understand your thought is like, oh, there's going to be a PE signing off on this. The problem is we have no copy and no records of who signed off on it, how they've signed off on it, how they're accredited, how they're not accredited. And the companies that are coming to us are all LLCs, sometimes multiple LLCs that they don't have a business portfolio or some reputation to fall back on. So we're kind of like, where does that leave the town if they put something in? I don't know where we start and the state takes over. I got to think that Central Maine Power and the state are doing the bulk of this, but the town council came with this as a question. That's the reason that I added it. I'm not sure what we added is reasonable. I'm just saying that it got added to try to answer their question.
Eddie, you finished?
Yes.
Don?
Yeah, I still think that the people designing it would have some kind of
They must.
interest in making sure it follows their design.
Wouldn't think CMP would approve it.
The other thing is the town really concerned about what's inside their fence? Worried about.
Town council was very concerned
Well,
about.
I'm just asking, why are we worried about that? If they put something in their
Somebody from the
fence.
town council might have been there too.
Hold on, please. Don, are you done?
No, I was just making the comment, if they've got their installation on their property in their fence, why is the town really concerned about how it was put in? That it's gonna blow
Well, I
up
get-
or something?
I guess a analogy would be, we require a third-party inspector on a building.
Well, the building I can understand.
And they deal with foundations, they deal with load carrying members, the architect designed it, but the third party works with the contractor and the design to ensure that the customer gets what the design says they need. So
Understand.
that's what the third party we have. So this is,
Buildings.
this is another level. This is the electrical piece. Now, for feedback, at the meeting with the council, I think it was Zach that was very vocal about this requirement. And we need to have Zach present to help us understand that better, make sure we're going down the right direction relative to his concerns, and then go forward with it. So to me, there's two interpretations. One of them is looking at the design, and there's a piece there, and then there's a look at the actual construction, what they get for that construction or from that design. And so we need help from Zach on that piece. Jamie?
I want to make sure, because you actually brought up kind of a nice point that I agree with, is need to keep things a little consistent with this with other businesses. You're saying we need an inspector. Somebody's doing some other project. Okay. As long as that's somebody that can do, already being done with the state, things are already being reviewed with the state. Assuming the state, the DEP have somebody that comes out, checks it out, or somebody.
No, I mean, no,
Just do a building plan, they build it, and then that's it. State's just like
the state doesn't have a role. So if you were to build a house here in
CMP.
yeah, if you were to build a house in Winthrop, Mark would approve the permit. He would inspect the erosion control when you dug the foundation. You would hire a third-party inspector to do the structural load analysis, to do that you built the house correctly. You'd have to have your own electrical inspector, or if you had a licensed electrician, they have to sign off on Mark for the permit. So that's something that they can have that, or they can go and get a state inspector for their electrical. Mark does the plumbing. He's a certified plumbing inspector.
It's written out. I'm sorry if everybody already knows this, I just don't understand it. So they build their solar, they get approved by us. CMP designs it along with their engineers?
No, they're
CMP
in.
picks it up.
I believe the way the process works, based on the documents I could find, is that the applicant puts their package together. They submit that to the state of Maine. The state of Maine has a review process, and that process also links in our case, Central Maine Power. And they're telling Central Maine Power, do you have the capacity? Do you have to upgrade any transformers? Do you have to do, so they do an analysis on the power coming in at that location. And if the lines need to be upgraded and all this, so it's not a one size fits all, right? You can't just plug in. It's like you got to have the right size cord, the right size plug, the right size everything. So they make sure that where they're plugging in fits the requirements. And it's regulated, my understanding is it's regulated by the state and probably largely by the PUC. They're the ones that are controlling that interconnection, but they're working with CMP, but they're taking the plans from that original design. So, and my understanding when we were at the meeting, Zach said, we don't have a copy of those plans anywhere. And he wanted to have a copy of those plans. So I thought,
Mark goes out and inspects it.
not the electrical side.
He
Mark inspects, each panel is a structure. He also inspects the erosion control.
Excuse me.
Right. No, Mark, the electrical part is the part that Mark is not certified to inspect. And that's
Nobody
where,
is.
well, I don't
know.
I don't know what the
don't know.
inspection process is.
Well, let me give you an example. Excuse me. Let me give you an example. In a home, CMP comes out and connects your home. Either they do moving a service to a new location, or they give you a new location. With that said, they come out and tell you where to put the meter. Then they come back out prepared to connect. And if indeed you haven't got the right materials in your service entrance, your meter, your disconnect,
Yeah.
all that. In fact, there was a day when they looked at your main breaker, your main panel, because now they require the main breaker on the outside wall. They inspect all that, and they will not connect if it's not proper. So that's kind of an analogy on a small scale. In a residential, this is huge. I mean, you're talking about a whole control system, interconnection, relaying, disconnects, and phase control. So you phase that power into the CMP power properly, because you can't just put it on the line. You gotta phase it in so it's the same phase and it doesn't interrupt the system. So it's more complicated, but that's the best analogy I can give you on a residential.
Usually
Right.
say they come out and they say, we don't like this. CMP, to do it. What do we do? Who the hell do we know who's?
Well, I mean, in both cases, they have to go by the code, the electrical code, National Electrical Code. And with that, there are certain pardon? That's why you want the third party inspector. That's the whole point. That happens every day. That happens every day. That happens every day with CMP and the electrician doing the job. And this is on a bigger scale. They negotiate what it is they want and rectify it if necessary and move on, connect.
So you're saying CMP is gonna run the show?
No, I'm not. The interconnection,
way it
when they come to interconnect, that's when they run the show.
Okay, that,
Okay, Andy? Anything else, Andy?
So I think,
Can we have one meeting, please? Go ahead, Aaron.
so I think I can kind of speak to kind of what Zach, I think if I recall, was looking at a safety aspect for the third party inspector, although I can't really speak to it 100%. Making sure that surge capacity and protections that were specific to the site have someone outside looking at it as far as, say you have a neighborhood kid or something that we know, or that the planning board has it on file and documented that those safety mitigation strategies are in place. What I was looking for as far as the specific information was trying to figure out that, or making sure that the board can determine capacity that exists on a residential street for say, like, for example, let's use Carlton Pond Road, where the Augusta Utility District has a proposed solar field going in. What I think I would want to see is, what is that commercial project going to limit for all of the residents on that road, should they decide they want to put solar in, right? So there's only so much capacity that's available on any line, right? So a lot of the lines that we've seen work on 202 were the result of the Center Road project to increase capacity because they didn't have the capacity for that size of a project. So there's two pieces at CMP. There's a transmission piece and a distribution, which have separate engineering departments. The transmission department is for like extremely large, those are the large lines that you see that cross, they usually have 3 poles. And then the distribution are the ones we see beside the road. And the PUC kind of gave guidance a few years ago, basically saying their distribution department needed to make this capacity available for the commercial users, leaving out the residential users. So what I wanted to see was that if we had, a process in the ordinance to identify what capacity exists on that particular line, so that way when you guys get further projects down the line, you'll have that available. You wouldn't have to rely on getting information from a distribution engineer from CMP, because that's going to be something you're going to need to approve projects. Or, I'm assuming, do we have an ordinance for residential solar capacity right now? Like, do you guys have to approve anything?
Nope.
No,
Not if it's
okay,
home
so-
use. Not
right.
if it's home use.
Yep. So right now that a resident could go purchase a very expensive piece of equipment thinking that they're going to be able to put it on that line to get some of that cost back. They may not be able to. So, so that's,
It is and it isn't.
it
I
is,
mean,
but
when-
it's,
when you,
we want to be able to provide that information unless you want to wait
Right.
and see.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's possible. You use a Carlton Pond Road project as an
Yeah.
example, and at that hearing, that point was made. And I think it was more about interruption versus adding capacity or adding generation. But it would be real easy if, let's say, the Carlton Pond Road project took up all the capacity of the lines. Yes, CMP has to go fix that. But when the individual resident says, I want to add solar to my property, CMP's simple answer is, nope.
Gonna be no. Yep.
So then they got to work with CMP to get that fixed, which could be a long-term problem. So what you're looking for, excuse me.
Solar.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But
Every house on us.
I lost my point.
It might not be restrictive, but I would imagine, at least I would want to know if you're going to get a return on your investment, if that was your strategy for financing it.
So what you're saying is whoever proposes a plan has to tell us what that capacity is, working with CMP, what the capacity is,
Right,
what the
that-
remaining capacity is for that road.
And that
That's
will
what
be
you're after.
determined at least to some
You
point
understand?
through the commercial project, but that information should be available to the residents on that street
Correct.
during that project.
It's a snapshot in time. That's all it is.
Well, I guess at the same time, if indeed there's an issue, then you have the ability to bring it forward to CMP and they have to put a plan together. Or should put a plan together if they want that capacity.
It would certainly be information that I would want to know.
Yep.
Okay, we've got a lot of input. I think Dawn helped me out here. The next step would be to have another workshop to talk about these points. Perhaps Greg has an opportunity to absorb them and see how it fits, if indeed there's a resolution, as well as having Zach come in and tell us what he's thinking. Pardon?
Yes.
Yes. And so are we ready? Are we ready for another workshop in 2 weeks? Go ahead, Don.
I just want to make sure we have a deadline of July 1st for the state mandates. And
So your focus is on those in the next workshop? Okay. So let's put this back on the agenda 2 meetings from now, see where we're at, and make sure Zach's aware we're doing that. I don't think we're ready for public hearing yet. Okay, any other input for Greg?
have to submit that. They-
Remove all.
Teasing when you remove the word all from the sentence.
Okay. Well, let's not go there. But thank you for that feedback.
Find all now.
Okay, so the,
There's a handful, and I guess under applicable.
It is weird. Yeah. Yep.
Philly district doesn't have to come to us for permits. Work on the roads to go to properties. They're exempt.
It seems to me that what I've heard people talking about is information that is probably readily available in an applicant's application to the state. When I worked at DEP, we were issuing water quality certifications for hydroelectric projects. The applicant had to go to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission for their permit. And so for a DEP, our policy on that was submit the application that you're submitting to the feds. That's the application we're going to review. Don't give us something.
Or the biggest guy on the road.
Yeah, yeah. So it just seems to me that a lot of the information that people are asking about might already be contained in those applications. And if we just have them submit a copy of that with their application to us,
We did that
it'll be on file.
purpose when we designed this ordinance years ago now. We wanted to say, what do we need mostly? Because otherwise it becomes very cumbersome for an applicant and for us to keep track of what do we need? What is the state need?
Just as a reminder, the reason why we're working on this is because the council put a moratorium on. And with that, they gave us feedback. And that's what Greg was trying to use, that summary of feedback. Because all said and done, the council's going to have to approve whatever we create. And I'm not saying it's going to be perfect, but that's our guidance. And as your chair, I'm trying to just steer you in that direction as much as possible. Go ahead. Yep.
Well, we believe there's 11 approved plans and they're all less than a megawatt. Again, using Brent's point that they're all under a megawatt given today's standards. Yeah. 11. That's
But not all those 11 are built.
not all those 11 are built, and we know for a fact that one of them, the landowner has been given back, they've canceled the lease. So the one on Route 41, so there's at least one. I'm sure that might happen in other places, but we know I think there was 3 or 4 that are not built. And we know one of them at least has been turned back to the landowner, so. And I think I don't know about time wise, but. I had a separate conversation with Anthony and talked to Mark, and they met all the requirements except for They removed the vegetated buffer because we didn't explicitly say, don't remove it. Their full intention is to replant it. I thought it was pretty clear in the ordinance, the way I read it, which was you cannot cut anything below 25 feet. They cut everything and bulldozed it. And then their intention was to replant, but when I read the ordinance, I said, it doesn't specifically say that, and we didn't specifically say you cannot do this anywhere. So they could say they misinterpreted it, and then the only other question was the location of that property line from the DOT. DOT right-of-ways are notoriously hard to determine. So we need to get a surveyor. Yeah, they can be, because sometimes they're taken and then they expand in eminent domain and sometimes, so we need to get the actual state line where that is. We can't use the tax maps, in other words. From the state, yeah, but that's what we need. And that was not included in the package. Right, but that was not included in the package. And so they can't count any of DOT's right of way in their vegetated buffer. They have to. That's a different question. Mark is the one that's been monitoring the application. They did not significantly start after 1 year. But I don't know what they were granted for an extension. If they requested an extension and they were granted it, I don't know. That's a Mark question.
That's a Mark question.
I don't know.
Anything else, Andy?
What did you say? What did you request specifically? What section is that? What section is that?
We have a special exception in the zoning ordinance for something, I think it's resource protection. We could make that consistent. We could look at clarifying that. I believe I understand your question. There is a special exception reference in the zoning ordinance, and it's in the shoreline protection area. I think it's a special exception the board has to consider to grant a single-family home in the resource protection. So we can look at that to see if there's any.
I think you're right. Yeah. 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 That's right. Because it's not allowed in shoreland, but that's for residential use. So it was just to make sure to separate the two. Well, anybody that needs to put in a solar farm has to come to the planning board.
You all set, Andy? Okay, we're at 9 minutes of, I'm going to go to other business. Go ahead.
So
In other words, I don't think we have time to do the public water supply piece and do it justice.
Can I make a comment? Going back to Turtle Run, Zach commented that our lawyer and his lawyer got together, agreed on everything, so he thought he was just going to come here and worry about. Are you aware of what they came up with?
I was present at the meeting. It was a Zoom type meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am aware of what they came up with. The communication amongst them and with the town is not good. So I'm going to really try to work on that some more between now and the next meeting.
I guess I was.
But just a point for the board, we decide whether the applicant is acceptable or not the lawyer and not the representative of the lawyer. If the lawyer cautions us that we may be in violation, that's good to know. But
that's my point. That
if we don't have documentation from Don, but we make a decision based on our opinion, that's our guidance.
their lawyer made it very clear at one of the meetings that it was our job to approve this.
And
Lawyers can't do it for you. Now all of a sudden you got two lawyers together.
And one memo,
Hey, we thought we were gonna come here and get this approved.
right.
and
I
one
know we
memo
don't.
I read, Don,
But I would have liked,
correct me if I'm wrong, Don, but one memo I read, our lawyer said it was up to us.
oh yeah.
So they agree.
said.
They do agree.
Well, the other thing is, he said he will have his lawyer here for the next meeting.
He said he would if he wasn't able.
Yeah.
I think he's planning on having a lawyer here even if he comes. Way I heard him.
Sorry.
so that we could get through things. I don't see them getting it together.
But if that was if that was a condition, that would mean that we couldn't issue the permit for a year. So and if you were to issue the permit, you can't retract the permit if they failed to meet that condition. That would be the only, conditions have to be, they have to meet the conditions before they can actually get a permit. So if we said you have to come back to us in a year, they would not.
Stuff with
I don't
They're
think I
working
understand the
with you?
question. You're asking about, oh, tying that to, thing is that if there's no trigger, that, okay, so if they don't build it
Right.
and you've already granted the permit,
Yeah.
usually the condition is met prior to. Sometimes there is that where, but usually you hold their surety or you hold their certificate of occupancy. If there isn't any incentive or,
right, that's
Okay, we understand. We understand. Dawn, go ahead.
so I can move on to a different topic. I will do my best to get all the information that you guys need for that discussion. I think I understand where people are coming from. So I had a conversation with Anthony today, town manager, and someone has brought up the question of data centers, and it's, a big topic. So someone had asked him, should the town consider putting a moratorium on them and take a look at what that is, what's going on, should we be concerned, et cetera, et cetera. He wanted me to weigh in with
like
you
for
all.
AI.
Yeah, yeah, a data center.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's one thing. I haven't looked through our business ordinance. I'd have to go and see how that scores out. Because the business that we have all designed are all based, whether it's small, medium, or large, and whether they even have to come to the planning or depending on which zone they're in, et cetera, et cetera. The one question you would have is because they don't potentially have people going to them. It does have a size, so if the building was more than 2,500 square feet, they'd be coming to us as a large business anyway. So, but we'd have to look at like, what's the size of the building? I'm not sure how big a data center would be, but my guess is it's going to be big enough that it would have to be large and it would have to come to us. And we could assess that using the guidance that we already have. It'd be something worth looking at, and I'm willing to wander through and I'll give you what I think. But
I think his primary question was, because he knows you guys have a lot of work to do. Is that something that you think you could undertake if the town decided to put a pause on that and
generate an ordinance?
either amend our existing ordinance or create an ordinance if there's,
Well, I'm just curious. Well, no, but if it's large enough, it automatically, if it's a medium or large business, or if it's in the village, it has to come to us anyways. All businesses do. So it's going to be a business, it's commercial, it's not residential. So if it's big enough, it has to come to us. And then based on that, we have enough tools with the 14 points that we are tasked with approving to at least evaluate some of those questions. Because you talk about the connection to the neighbors, danger to the neighbors, security, all the lighting, all of those kind of things would be questions that we could ask of the business. So I'm just curious to kind of wander through that myself and say, where would we or would we not have controls? And just to make sure the board's aware of what we could and couldn't say. People could say, I don't want it for, this reason. It's like, if that's not one of the 14 reasons, then we can't say you can't have it. It has to be on that list. Right? Well, but the problem is, I'm sure you're going to find a lot of different definitions of what a data center is. And that's where, again, I caution us from putting too many things in our glossary or index and trying to define. Because trying to define those is opening ourselves to interpretation, where businesses, small, medium, or large, follow the same set of rules. But again, it'd be interesting. That's an interesting business to try to evaluate with our existing ordinance.
Dawn, what else you have?
I need you to sign that finding, and other than that. So I guess I didn't get a sense overall of what the board is thinking. Would it be overload? Do you think you have enough on your plate and you're really not going to embrace that? Or are you thinking this is important? So well, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I guess my reaction is we got several things on our plate. I'm not sure we want to take on another one at this juncture. That would be my answer.
It's happening to other places in the state because we don't have any
Cooling.
specific regulations.
Power and
for that.
cooling is the two big ones. Well, we still have,
We still got three state, as mentioned earlier, we're putting the solar off and, we've got three state laws that we got to deal with.
yeah. Well, we have the and we have the comp plan, we have the subdivision plan that's now 35 years old. And, you know, there's a few things that we need to continually kind of look at.
So I guess the short answer to Anthony is we'll
Yeah,
take it under advisement.
nope,
Say it again.
We'll take it under advisement.
1990.
Put it on the list, in other words.
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, yeah.
Anybody else? Anything? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Don?
Yeah.
Do it. Betty seconded it. All in favor? All opposed? Okay.
Data centers? Is that true? That's.
Wait, we have a standing rule, 9:00, we're done.
Okay, good.
Yeah. We take up no new business and existing business at 9:30, we're done. Even if we're not done.
That's
Unless
right,
we're gonna
yeah.
finish, we're out.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Well, did you see the mega power center?